Good evening, and welcome to this tonight's program, The Truth, Black Wall Street and Black Entrepreneurship Panel, brought to you by the Multicultural Center and the Planning Committee for this year's Black History Month. My name is Adrienne Watson, and I am the coordinator of cultural programs and events in the Multicultural Center. Before we begin this program, we want to start by acknowledging the history and legacy of colonization. UT Dallas stands on land originally settled and occupied by the Caddo, Wichita, and Comanche people. We recognize the history of UT Dallas begins with the forced removal of the indigenous people, the legacy of colonization. This year's Black History Month theme, I Am My Ancestors' Wildest Dreams, was selected by the Black History Month Planning Committee to encourage us to dream with ambition. And no matter how wild our dream seems, we must always continue striving toward them. We want to start this program with an overview of Black history, specifically what was known as Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. With us this evening is Mr. Warren Fuselier, who has graciously lent us some of his time to talk about Black Wall Street. Mr. Warren Fuselier is the project fellow working alongside Mr. Phil Armstrong at the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission. Please help me welcome Mr. Warren Fuselier.
Well, first off, thank you, Adrian, for such a warm welcome, and welcome to everybody that's decided to join us for today's program. I'm here to give you a brief overview of a little place that you might have seen on HBO's Watchmen, or maybe even the last season of Lovecraft Country, which is Black Wall Street. So in the early 1900s, before Oklahoma was even a state, Black Wall Street was alive and well. And as we think about the term Black Wall Street, we want to think not of a financial district in the sense of money coming in, investing in stocks and bonds, but truly a Black Main Street, which was a heartbeat of the Greenwood community. There were grocery stores, there were bakeries, hospitals and movie theaters, schools, bus stations, law firms, everything that a community needs to thrive. And this was a community born out of segregation, a community that Black people had to build themselves. So of course, this was Black owned, Black operated, and Black patrored. Now, this thriving community was disrupted in 1921 in one of the most historic incidents and one of the worst incidents of domestic terrorism in United States history. Coming right off the heels of Red Summer, we see a conflict in a divided community set off by a single event that no one thought would be as huge as it was at the time. In the late spring of 1921, Dick Rowland, who was a young man shining shoes on Black Wall Street, went to use one of the bathrooms in one of the buildings downtown, as he usually did every single day. There, he encountered a white elevator operator named Sarah Page, and while they were in the elevator lurched. He bumped into her, she bumped into him, something happened in that elevator, and she screamed. He then ran out of that elevator, afraid for his life, claiming, as she claimed, that he had assaulted her. She would later recant this story when she had the opportunity to press charges, as she recognized how big this incident had become based upon her single testimony. The next day, he was arrested, and the newspaper had printed an inflammatory story talking about the potential to lynch this young man. Now, at the time, he was being held at the courthouse downtown, so Black World War I veterans decided to stand on those courthouse steps to protect that young man as a white mob was forming, ready to lynch him. There was a scuffle between the white mob and the Black World War I veterans. A shot rang out from a gun in the crowd, and after that, 16 hours of chaos ensued. There was a looting of businesses and houses. There were planes flying overhead with white community members both dropping incendiary devices and raining down bullets on what we know now as Black Wall Street. It was pure chaos, and many people died, between 100 and 300 individuals that called Black Wall Street home. Now, after this event, Black refugees spent months in tent cities, and it was a time where there was a lot of pain, there was a lot of fear in the community, and to be quite honest, this pain and fear had stayed with the community long after these events. Now, it's important at this moment that we recognize that this was a massacre. Previous to the last couple of years, it's been dubbed a race riot. And this is important to note because as it was being called a riot, people could not file for their insurance claims, and nobody thought that Black Wall Street was going to be able to rebuild. It was truly a massacre that decimated not just the community, but the economic center of the Black community. But as always, the Black spirit prevailed, and Black Wall Street rebuilt. It rebuilt bigger and better, and it thrived until its gradual decline due to urban renewal and integration in the late 1960s. Now, we fast forward to now, and we talk about what is happening in Black Wall Street now, what is happening in Greenwood. So in 2015, State Senator Kevin Matthews, who represents the district where Black Wall Street sits right now, decided to form a statewide bipartisan commission in order to recognize the history and honor the survivors and their resilience. Now, within the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission, there are different committees committed to honoring this history. And that's an Arts and Culture Committee, that's Economic Development Committee, of course, that's a Travel Committee, which is focused on making sure that people come to Black Wall Street and experience this history. And of course, there's a Commemoration Committee focused on commemorating the 100th anniversary of Black Wall Street. Now, critical to our work is the formation of Greenwood Rising. Now, Greenwood Rising is going to be an 11,000 square foot museum-grade history center where we tell the story of Black Wall Street. It's not going to be an artifact museum in the sense that we have relics, because most of what has been lost of Black Wall Street sadly cannot be recovered. However, we will be telling the story of Black Wall Street, both how it formed in its inception, how it was destroyed in 1921, but most importantly, how it was rebuilt and what we are today. Now, critical to this space is going to be an amphitheater type space, which is going to be for community conversations where people from all sides of the community can come together and talk about how it is that we need to move forward as a community and how it is that we can come to a point of reconciliation. Now, we recognize that this space would have been great to have this past year because of incidents such as the lynching of Ahmaud Arbery, such as the George Floyd situation, and of course, the Breonna Taylor situation as well. Now, recognizing that there still is a lot of healing that needs to be done, not just in Tulsa, but in the community at large, the city of Tulsa, and more importantly, everyone within this community, both from the Black community and the white community, want to be the first to take this step into 2021, focusing on reconciliation, both honoring the past and recognizing how far we need to go in the future. So when you think about 1921 and you think about Tulsa, Oklahoma, we don't want you to think about the culmination of 100 years of tragic history, but instead we want you to think about the 100 years that are still to come and how you yourself can be involved in honoring the legacy of Black Wall Street. Thank you for having me, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of this program.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Warren. If everyone around watching can give a virtual hand clap for our wonderful panel, our wonderful guest speaker this evening. Thank you so much. And Warren, if you could actually let everyone know the website that they can get more information on for Black Wall Street, and then what you're doing down there in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Of course. So if you are interested in the commission's work and more importantly, what is going on within the entire community of Tulsa during this year, you can visit Tulsa, TULSA, 2021.org to learn more.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. One more virtual round of applause for Warren. Have a great evening, sir. Thank you again. Awesome. Well, now we're going to move into another part of our program this evening. I want to let you all know that what you can do while you're watching is let us know in the chat what you're thinking of this evening. And then also up next are our panels. We're going to answer some questions that we've prepared. And if you have any questions that you would like them to answer, make sure that you write that in the chat. And then when we get to the Q&A part, what we'll do is display that on the screen and have our panel answer your questions. So at this time, I'm going to introduce our moderator for this evening and for our panel, Miss Ellen McKay. You're on mute, Ellen.
Ooh,
there you go.
There I go. Hi, everyone. My name is Ellen McKay, and I am one of the multicultural peer advocates at the Multicultural Center. I am also a senior majoring in economics and finance, and I'm happy to be here. This evening, we have the pleasure of hearing from 4 amazing panelists who are here to encourage, enlighten, and share their journey to entrepreneurship. So let's introduce our guests. Our first panelist is Matt Houston. Matt Houston is principal of MLH Enterprises, a Dallas-based firm that provides education, professional development, and leadership consulting to organizations across the country. Clients have included the Nelson Mandela Foundation, KIPP Charter School System, Chanturian America, and other corporations in the North Texas region. Matt was previously executive director of Group Excellence, a mentoring and tutoring company that provides programs to schools across the country. Matt is currently professor of entrepreneurship and leadership at the University of North Texas at Dallas School of Business. Houston is a member of the Aspen Institute's Dallas Economic Opportunity Leadership Academy. Matt also serves as executive board member of the Dallas Black Chamber of Commerce, serving as chair from 2013 to 2015, and is engaged in other community and business organizations. In his free time, Houston is an active member of Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship and is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Matt is a native of Dallas and earned his bachelor's degree in economics from Southern Methodist University and his master's of business administration degree from the Neely School of Business at the Texas Christian University. He was also in the Blueprint for Leadership Program class of 2008 from the Center for Nonprofit Management and Leadership Dallas class of 2012 from the Dallas Regional Chamber. Our next panelist is Allison Ray Lawson, a Dallas, Texas native, currently the Chief Executive Officer of Ray Lawson Enterprise and Ray Lawson Enterprise 2.0, and a franchisee operator of 2 7-Eleven convenience stores with gas. Ms. Lawson attended Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia, where she obtained a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Management. Ms. Lawson continued her postgraduate education and received a Master of Business Administration degree from Texas A&M University Commerce and received a Master of Accounting degree from the University of Miami. Ms. Lawson's business and financial background allowed her to attain her ultimate desire, becoming an entrepreneur. This entrepreneurial journey has led to her being awarded the 7-Eleven Brand Excellence Emerald Champion Award. The City of Arlington Game Changer Award, and the Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Entrepreneurship Award from the National Council of Negro Women, the Elite News, John Beckwith Business Award, and most recently being inducted into the class of 2019 Hampton University Top 40 Under 40 Society. She is the founder of the Lance A. Lemons Memorial Foundation, a proud and active member of the illustrious sorority Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. She is a blessed member of St. Luke Community United Methodist Church. Ms. Lawson is extremely passionate about supporting the future entrepreneurial aspirations of the next generation. Ms. Lawson hopes to bring her love for this subject to students everywhere while continuing to build upon her personal career goals in the future. Next, we have Katarina Keys, an accomplished business and community leader with more than 25 years of experience in marketing, public relations, and diversity programs. She is the CEO of K Strategies, an award-winning marketing and public relations agency with notable clients such as the City of Dallas, Dallas Area Rapid Transit, aka DART, Dallas Cowboys, Southwest Airlines, and Texas Department of Transportation. Katrina has received numerous awards for her leadership, including being recognized as a top minority business leader by the Dallas Business Journal. Katrina has been passionately involved in advancing communities and has served on the board of directors of the National PR Council, Dallas Arboretum, Dallas Black Chamber of Commerce, DFW Minority Supplier Development Council, and the Oak Cliff Chamber of Commerce. She earned college degrees from UT Arlington and Dallas Baptist University, and is also an alumnus of UT Dallas and Morris Brown College. Katrina is a proud wife, mother, Christian, military veteran, and member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Last and certainly not least, Mr. Kevin Mundy is the founder and director of Project Still I Rise Incorporated, a community-driven nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting youth through STEM, entrepreneurship, mentoring scholarships, and professional development. Raised in Dallas, Texas, Kevin obtained his Bachelor of Science degree from East Central University in Ada, Oklahoma, and his Master of Arts degree in Business from Dallas Baptist University. Kevin has worked with young people in Dallas for more than 2 decades, starting programs such as the Project Manhood Leadership Institute, Urban Scholars Initiative, Comerica Bank Community Resource Centers, and co-founder of the African American Male Academic Bowl. His most recent startup initiative, the National Youth Chamber of Commerce, supports youth entrepreneurs who want to start and operate a small business. Kevin currently serves on Comerica Bank's Community Development Advisory Council for the Texas market, helping shape lending policies and programs that impact its CRA ratings. Mr. Mundy is a husband, father, and a proud member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. His advocacy for youth and community development is genuinely making a positive impact. So let's give them all a virtual hand clap. We will start tonight off with several questions we have prepared for the panelists, and then we will allow time for the audience to ask questions at the very end. Our first question is, okay, will you share with us how you started your journey to become an entrepreneur? First, let's start off with the ladies and then the gentlemen.
I guess I'll go first. I never really wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I have my mother who's an entrepreneur. She's a realtor. And my father franchised 3 McDonald's in the Oak Cliff area whenever I was growing up. And I just wanted to grow up and just work my way up in corporate America, which is exactly what I was doing. And I got to a place where I was in the automotive industry, the good old boys club. I knew I belonged there, but they didn't treat me like that. And at which point I felt completely disrespected. And so I had to figure out what was best for me. And being my own boss was probably going to be the best for my personality and my attitude. And so that's really just how I got started. Franchising is a little bit different. It's not really just it's a different process to starting. And so I just reached out to everybody, Jimmy John's, Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, 7-Eleven. And 7-Eleven kind of was the easiest process to go through. So I landed on 7-Eleven.
Thank you for that. Miss Katarina Keys?
Hi. Yes, I would say I started in higher education. And so I always thought, like I think many of us are taught, you get a good college education, then you go get a good job. And so I thought that was my role. I was going to be in higher education, be in a university VP or something like that. But down the road, I started working for UT Arlington, and I was the director of minority business. So I helped to help minorities get contracts at UTA. And then later I went to DFW Airport doing the same thing. And working with entrepreneurs, I then realized that you can get an education and get a job and you can take care of yourself, or you can have a business and give jobs and help take care of the community. And so from working with so many different minority businesses, that's what inspired me to start my business. And that's kind of how I got started.
Thank you. Mr. Matt Houston?
Good deal. Well, my journey started, my journey wasn't my choice. I was 13 years old, and my father, who is an entrepreneur, he was a corporate banker, turned entrepreneur, turned business advocate, decided that I shouldn't have allowance anymore once I turned 13. And so he loaned me his lawnmower. He loaned me a 5-gallon gasoline container and a 1-gallon gasoline container so we can mix gas and oil. And he said, you have 3 months to earn enough money for the rest of the year. And that was the beginning of my entrepreneurship journey. And that was that built into building a music company in high school, in which I was in the band, and I was writing music for the high school band. And so we were trying to figure out ways to do gigs outside of high school. So we created sole proprietorship in high school. Then in college, I was a broke college student, and the only thing I can do to make money outside of playing gigs at night was to tutor kids in math and science after school. And so we created a business there and created that entrepreneurial journey from another need. And so all of my entrepreneurship ventures stemmed from some type of need and some type of strategy to build off of. So,
thank you, Mr. Mandy.
Well, thank you for the question. First of all, I'm gonna say go Pirates to Ms. Lawson. My son is a recent 2016 graduate of Hampton University, so he's living up that way now, and he's working on his master's in cybersecurity at Hampton. So when I see a fellow Pirate, I'm always told to say "Go Pirate," the real HU. So that's how I've been trained and what I've been trained to do. But to answer your question, my journey started much like Matt's. And as we talk about Black Wall Street, I have to talk about the street in which I grew up on. Polk Terrace neighborhood, Glencairn, small community in Oak Cliff growing up. But my dad still does today, owns a construction company. So I was in the middle of it growing up in my house. But it wasn't just my dad, but it was Mr. Dodd's TV repair shop who lived on the corner. It was Mr. Bill's mechanic shop who lived directly across the street. And it was Mr. Green's insurance agency who lived on the opposite side of me. So growing up in our neighborhood, we had a unique experience where we could go, north, south, east, and west to your house, and you would see entrepreneurs coming in the evening, Mr. Green doing sales in the afternoon when people come home, selling insurance policies. You could go up to Mr. Dodds and hang out and talk about his day with TVs. So it was immersed in my community on the street I grew up in. So it was a natural fit that you saw all these entrepreneurs doing business, but you would hear them talk about their days and their journeys. And so you had an inside look. So growing up around it, I would say kind of shedded light in my life to be able to pursue that journey. But also it just didn't stop with my dad's construction company. And I'm gonna date myself just a little bit. But growing up, we had a paper route. And that was our business. 4 brothers growing up in my house. I have 4 brothers, 4 siblings. So we were paper boys. So those newspapers would come stacked. You had somebody putting rubber bands on them, somebody putting them in the bag. And at that time, we were throwing papers for the Dallas Times Herald. So it was 2 papers in Dallas back then, the Morning News and the Times Herald. So we ran paper routes for the Dallas Times Herald. So that was our business growing up as young men in the house. So that's how my journey began to shape for entrepreneurship.
Thank you. You talk about the people in your neighborhood and the days and how it looked like for them. Can you all tell me what your typical day looks like as an entrepreneur now? And we can start off with Mr. Matt Houston.
Great. That is a great question because you may receive 4 different answers. I'm almost certain you receive 4 different answers because entrepreneurs have to create schedules that are optimal for both productivity, not only for their businesses, but also in their work-life balance or lack thereof. So in the mornings, I typically carve out the first portion as personal reflection, internal health, mental health, and quality time. I'm newly married, and so we are deliberately making the morning time the time where we're getting together, we're discussing the day because she has an entrepreneurial venture that she's doing, and it's a startup, and so we're both busy all day. So that's first part, and that's scheduled every day. And then afterwards, after breakfast, granola bar on my computer screen with a water and a smoothie. I'm checking my emails. I'm looking at communications. And this is all before 8 o'clock. And so I'm making sure I keep up with what's going on, the subscriptions that I have with stock market, early full monty, those type of business type of insider things. I'm looking at that. From 9 until noon, I do a lot of my communications, emails, talking to potential clients, and having meetings. Have a quick lunch break. In the afternoon, I focus my block of day on academia. I'm a professor at UNT Dallas, and so I teach in the evening entrepreneurship, and I teach virtually leadership. But I'm also a part of committees, and I do research and write academic articles on social entrepreneurship and the state of the Black economy across the country. And so I have to carve out 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day on research. Teach in the evenings. After teaching, I try to grab a bite. And then in the evenings, I look at my emails again, try to talk to my wife, see how her day has been, and then plan for the next day.
Thank you. What about you, Miss Katarina Keys?
Say every day is different. As an entrepreneur, you're never going to have a typical day. And as an entrepreneur, you wear a lot of hats. So I can start off with meeting with my staff, talking about the projects they're working on and the services, then put on that next hat and meet with my inside accountant, looking at our financials and what our revenue looks like. Are we meeting our goals? Then I can be meeting with our salespeople, seeing what deals we're working on and what's closing, or just meeting with clients and making sure our projects are going great. So every day is different. And sometimes you may get up and look at my calendar, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And then something happens and changes that. And so you always got to be flexible. You can't be like, well, a client calls and needs something urgent, I got to change up. Or employee calls in sick, I may have to do something that they're working on. So as an entrepreneur, you got to be flexible, and every day is different.
Thank you. And you, Miss Allison Ray?
A typical day in the life of a 7-Eleven franchisee. There is no typical day. There will never be a typical day. You could walk in with the best intentions, and next thing you know, your whole slurping machine is down. Or you walk in with the best intentions, and people are fighting in your parking lot. You don't know. And I think that is probably the best part about being not just an entrepreneur, but the best part of like owning an act like a storefront is that you could walk in any given day, and not only can you get something from customers or the building itself, but at the end of the day, you still have to communicate with 7-Eleven corporate. So whatever they throw your way as well. In an ideal world, I would love to come in, check on everything, be a boss, and walk out. That's what I would like to do. And I thought that I was slowly working up to that, but it's just never going to happen. And so I think the best way for me to not have to deal with anything is for one day for me just not to come in. And that'll be a regular day for me. But I never have a typical day, but I love that. Like, I absolutely love it. And because a lot of it is comical, and you can look back and laugh on it. So no typical days. And in fact, if you want to be an entrepreneur, I think you need to get used to not having typical days.
That's very true.
Thank you. Well, since I asked everyone else, Mr. Mundy, can you tell me how a day might look in your life as an entrepreneur?
Just about the same with everyone else. I think my morning thought or my morning prayer is always, Lord, please let this idea work today that I've dreamed up last night or earlier this week, and I have to put it in play today. I just need it to work. Show me some light and mercy, some grace and mercy today, because I need it to work today. So that's typically it. It's that check-in. That's a check-in point for me. Then next is just checking the national news and just trying to see how that is impacting what we do on a day-to-day basis from a national standpoint, and then go local news to see if there's anything locally that may impact on what we do on a day-to-day basis. Afterwards, it's a check-in, I would say, with my team, because they are essentially the ones who make things move. So you want to make sure that they are doing well, they're in good standings, and that they are comfortable with what they've been assigned to do. Afterwards is checking emails, making sure they're priority emails, and then there's those ones that I can check in a little later. So, and then midday, I'm checking in with my wife just to check on her, to see how she's doing, and to see how her day is going as well. Always one of the most important things is to check in with my kids to make sure that they're doing well and their day is going well, and to see if they have any questions or any things that we could talk about that may spark an interest to me. But I always, because I'm in the business of young folk and I do young people, I check in with a young person that I hadn't checked in a while, just to check on their well-being, to see how they're feeling. And we just actually chop up conversations and ideas. And I ask them about specific projects that we're working on to see what knowledge they can lend to tasks that we may have going on inside the organization.
Okay. So that leads me to the next question. What is your favorite and least favorite part about being an entrepreneur? And I'm going to have Mr. Mindy start us off.
My favorite part is the challenges, some of the challenges that come with it. There's a saying, challenges bring about success, so don't bring me nothing but problems, or something like that. So it's those challenges that you look forward to, but it's also identifying innovative solutions to solve some of those problems, but pulling other people in, checking in with your core group of folks who can help you solve some of those problems. So that's exciting to me, is just problem solving. I would say the least thing, it depends on the day sometimes. If you're looking for some funding that didn't come through, or you didn't get for my line of business, or you didn't get a grant that you wrote that you really thought you had a chance. So those can kind of make some cloudy days for you. And I would say, or when you hear there are certain segments of the community, from my standpoint, that are not doing well, you're always taking that weight on to figure out what can we do to make it better. So those are some pros and cons to my day of what I like.
Thank you. What about you, Mr. Houston?
So I'll start with my favorite portion, and it's actually the process. So Kevin hit it well. It's solving a problem, but once you identify that problem, I truly enjoy the ideation portion, in terms of figuring out what people we could get together as a team to make something work. What tools can we use, what connections we use from existing projects to synergize this type of and metamorphosize something new. So I love that facet of entrepreneurship. My least favorite portion of entrepreneurship is the down portion of the volatile nature. So in entrepreneurship, your highs are high and your lows are really low. And so you can have a high as much as a younger entrepreneur getting it and a light bulb goes off, and that can set your endorphins up for the day. But then you can also have a cease and desist come to your front door or come to your office because a large corporation noticed your logo and want to threaten to sue you, personal experiences. Anyway, those type of things are the down portions of entrepreneurship that I'm not a fan of.
Thank you for that. So now my question is, how do you deal with those lows? Let's start off with Miss Katarina Keys. Can you answer that for me?
I think really just being a planner. So you have to be always thinking about what could happen, what are the pros and cons of things, and making great decisions. So you always have to be planning and preparing for the future. Just like COVID-19. There's no way we could ever thought back in March of last year that we would shut down for a whole year. But for us, and I think I'm probably getting ahead of ourselves because we have one of these questions, but for us, we were already virtual. We had remote servers. All our staff had laptops. So that Friday, I think it was March 13th, I said, hey guys, the city's shutting down. We're going to work from home. I don't know for how long. And Monday we were working from home and haven't skipped a beat. We're still at home and working great. So I think because we were prepared, we didn't know we were prepared for COVID-19, but because we were virtually and technology wise prepared and had made those investments, we were ready. So I think you always have to be planning and thinking and preparing, and you're never prepared enough. So you always got to keep planning.
Thank you for that. Since you brought up COVID-19, I want to ask, How have you had to pivot to remain successful? I'm going to have Mr. Houston answer that. Uh-oh. We can't hear you.
Sorry, I think Allison was trying to answer the previous question. Sorry.
Sorry.
Do you mind if Allison answers that, and then we can transition to that?
Yes. Go ahead, Mrs. Allison Ray. Wait.
Now we can hear you.
Gotcha. I really do appreciate that, because I did want to put an input on, kind of the pros and cons of, what I like about entrepreneurship. This is one of my favorite questions. So I do apologize for kind of stopping the show on that one. So I would like to say the pros that I have is that I really do love, and this is just my industry in general. I really do love getting up and wearing what I want to wear. Like this sounds crazy, but I really do. Like, this is how I go to work. This is exactly what I wear whenever I go to work. And nobody can really check me on it. I know that, as an African-American female, I have bad hair days. And sometimes you wake up and you have no idea what you can do with your, what to do with your hair. And in corporate America, like, I always had to put on, I always had to like figure out, like, okay, like, what was I going to do? How I was going to dress? Oh no, I have a bad hair day. My twist out didn't come out right. What am I going to, but now I throw on a baseball cap and I go. And that's just for my industry in general. I like the fact that I like to, I get to make my own schedule. On days whenever I need to do something, I can work around what I need to do. And I love people. So I love the fact that I get to meet new people every single day. But I think entrepreneurship really just gives you a pride in just saying that, like, this is mine and nobody can do anything about it. And I can run it how I want to. I think the cons of entrepreneurship for me is, one, like Mr. Houston said, being sued. I'm probably sued maybe 2 or 3 times a month. It happens. Thank God for cameras. But I also think that I miss kind of that constant that steady paycheck that I had in corporate America. Like always being able to know that every other week I was going to get paid and I was going to have health insurance and it wasn't going to be sky high. And I get my weeks off for vacation. And at the end of the day, like, I could go home at 5 p.m. and sleep well through the night and not care about what's going on at work because it's somebody else's money. Now I can't get a good night's sleep to save my life, and I'm working on it. But I think that it's kind of a balance that makes me just really love entrepreneurship. As far as dealing with the failures, as Ms. Katarina said, I am very terrible at dealing with failure. I shut myself down. I automatically start thinking really bad thoughts. And that's just to be real, like, to be honest with you, you have a lot of those moments, especially during COVID. Like, you had no idea that COVID was coming, right? And it was just a smack in the face. Like, it literally, like, Dallas shut down. And then a week later, I'm in Arlington. I'm like, okay, well, Arlington, it literally smacked you in the face. It didn't give you a chance to figure out staffing. It didn't give you a chance to figure out vendors. It literally was a smack in the face and an adjustment that you had to make. But I think that truly defines the business owners that you see here in this panel. And if they can overcome what's going on with COVID, then that's how you know that, like, your mindset is in the right place to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 1,000%, Allison. And I was in a position where, fortunately, my plan was to ramp down my staffing on my business at the time. So I was in the season where I wanted to focus on teaching full time. I was offered a position to teach as a full-time professor. And so I changed my business model. I made my business sole proprietorship and consultancy and everything else. I redistributed my roles and I just focused on academia and did a little bit of consulting. So before COVID, I didn't have the operations challenges as a lot of other entrepreneurs have. So I was actually in a place of privilege and I was fortunate to be in that space. But even with that, the few clients I had, because I had a paycheck from UNT Dallas, I was planning my vacations on my consultant checks. And that was my wedding. That was what I was gonna pay for the wedding on my consultancy stuff. And so when COVID hit, my clients evaporated because the market was unstable. No one knew what was going on. And so the first to go are 1099s or consultants. And so I had to reevaluate. But fortunately, I created a plan initially that all of my core bills and my core expenses were in something that I was getting a check every month from the academic institution. Thanks, UNT Dallas.
Thank you for that. What about you, Mr. Mundy? How have you had to pivot to remain successful?
Oh, COVID actually, as bad as it may, and I know it has, our communities, our neighborhoods have taken a hit, but actually it did something positive for us. And we are a face-to-face model. We're in the business of in schools and libraries and rec centers, and we're working with students. So when COVID hit, all those places were shut down, and our contracts and our grants were heavily dependent on that style of service delivery. So there was no service delivery. And during the time, it was starting to be the time when we would ramp down a little bit because it's spring going into summer, and you kind of do a build back up for summer. Well, what happened, what we call our urban scholars, these are students who have come through our program that we've given scholarships to. They're on college campuses. It created a unique opportunity because we actually took on more weight. But I wanted to see how we could pivot with them and use their knowledge base to help us further our mission and further help us to close the achievement gap or to deliver services to students. So what we did, we just went to an online model using our college students because their lives were disrupted and they were looking for things to do because a lot of them had to move back home with mama, and that was a change of pace when you stand on college, when you're on the campus by yourself, you got to move back in. We've probably all gone through that transition. So their time was very down low. And I asked them to do three things. Help us to develop an online teaching model for students because they need access to things. One, let's teach them about your college campus because a lot of these students will not be able to do a college tour in the spring or summer. So teach about your college campus. And then secondly, teach on the subject that you're most passionate about. So if you are a chemistry major, you're going to get on Zoom. We were all introduced to Zoom, right? So you're going to teach virtually a Zoom chemistry class, one-on-one class for students, elementary through middle school. If you're an engineering major, you're going to teach students about Prairie View A&M University, what you're involved in, and you're going to teach on electrical engineering one-on-one. So we developed these series of lessons, and they became popular to parents who were homeschooling indirectly to their children because they needed plug-in activities for their children to view. So in that sense, it created an opportunity for us that I didn't even see coming. There was a senior living facility. It's called the Luella Memorial Home, way in Detroit, Michigan. Saw how our college students were teaching lessons. And they had a group of seniors that they wanted to help bridge the digital divide. And they were buying their seniors these Google Home Max Pros. And if you have a parent that's living, seniors don't often trust technology that talk back to you, first of all. But it created an opportunity for our organization where, some folks are like, well, that's mission drifting because we don't do seniors, right? We do students, but what we do is STEM and technology. So now our students are developing curriculum for their staff to work digitally with their group of seniors to use these Google Home Pro Maxes. And the students will be able to teach the seniors directly on how to use these devices and be comfortable with them. So in COVID, so it was a quick pivot, but it also created a unique opportunity for us now to do more things in this space of utilizing college students and digital platforming to be able to help bridge that divide.
Thank you for that.
Can I add one thing about the same time that COVID hit? And I think that it really was a very monumental moment in history. At the same time, around the same time that COVID hit, you had George Floyd.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You had George Floyd happening, and so sorry. And so at the same time that was happening, you realize that okay, we're going down in one area, but on the flip side, it was something to where as the whole African American community came together to support whatever we had going on. So my customer count went down for probably about 2 weeks, and then the murder of George Floyd happened. And then after that, the Black community kind of stuck together and came together, which then helped me out a lot more. So I think it was a downfall of COVID. It was like the devil coming in, and then after that, it was like the Lord coming in. So I will say that it kind of leveled itself out in my business because of that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great example of how multiple facets of life experiences can create new opportunities. And so one thing about entrepreneurs is that when there's a crisis in the masses, we think a little differently. And so we try to seek that opportunity. We kind of figure out the best way to make lemonade possible, because my family is also in the restaurant business. And during COVID, when COVID started, we were weeks before having to shut down. And then George Floyd happened. And all of a sudden, everyone, not just Black people, but everyone became aware of Black-owned businesses. And for that time in late April, early May, it really turned things around. And when that turned around, it allowed entrepreneurs to think a little healthier into how to survive in the summer. It's just identifying a new problem and finding some efficiency each day to become better, to survive.
Creating that Black Wall Street again, as we spoke about in the beginning.
This makes me think about an article I read about you, Miss Allison Ray, where you made history with selling the McBride Sisters collection. Am I saying that right?
Yes, the McBride Sister wine collection. Yes.
Yes, and so I wanted to ask, when taking risk like that, bringing new inventory in like that, what do you think has to be present for you to take that risk? Or you don't think there has to be anything present at all?
No, I get this question a lot. I get a lot of people ever since I did. So the history in what she's saying is the McBride Sisters is the #1 African-American owned wine company in the country. They operate out of the United States. There we go. Black Girl Magic. One of their collections is called Black Girl Magic. And they are in New Zealand and the United States. And whenever I first found them, I thought to myself, like, I just wanted to bring in a Black-owned product. I saw it on one of my friends' page who works for the distributor. And I was like, I just want to bring in a Black-owned product, see what happens. I literally bought in 2 cases, and it probably took me about 2 weeks to sell it. And at which point it wasn't about making money. Like, it wasn't about making money. It sincerely was about 7-Eleven not really having any Black-owned products within their store. And me being Black and me loving my community, what can I do from my point? I mean, because there are rules around franchising and bringing in products. So I don't bring in everything. So when I do get emails like, hey, do you bring in this? Can I bring in this? I don't bring in food. There's just certain objects. And if I feel like I can really market it myself, then I'll definitely bring it in. But I sold 1,100 bottles worth of wine in 2 days, which made me the #1 7-Eleven in the country. So the risk to me was, this is what I'm going to do, because you have to support Black-owned businesses. Like, I truly wanted to have a Black-owned business inside of my Black-owned business. And it just so happened that the rest of the community agreed with me. I also brought in Ride Fresh, their air fresheners. I sold 500 of them in 2 days. And so to me, I'll risk it with a Black-owned business. Like, I'll risk it with a Black-owned business. I'll tell Pepsi and Dr. Pepper no in a heartbeat. But I will definitely risk it. And to me, it wasn't even a question of like, should I or should I not? Did I ever think it would have gotten that big? No. But I definitely think that representation matters, as my friend Tashara Parker says. And so that is very, very important to me. So no, that wasn't a risk at all. But I do weigh pros and cons of things, but that was a definite, like, let's go.
Thank you. I want to ask everyone else the same question. When taking risks, do you think something must be present in order for you to make the decision to do so? And we can start off with Ms. Katarina Keys.
Well, I think I kind of spoke to this a little bit late, earlier, but I'm always looking at, the consequences. Is it going to be a good decision? And also who we're helping. I definitely agree on helping people who are starting off. I had a lot of people help me when I started my business. So when I meet entrepreneurs, I'm happy to meet with them, give them ideas, help them out, give them a referral, vouch for them if I can. So, because people did the same for me, but I just think it's looking at the consequences and what you can do and what you can't do. And sometimes you got to take a risk. And if it helps somebody else, that's great.
Okay. And what about you, Mr. Mundy?
So I typically take a lot of risk, and some folks will say this is not the right time to try to start this new venture. But just like Ms. Ray, when COVID hit, one thing I noticed, there were a lot of students, and I'm gonna say it like they say it. They were looking to do a lot of hustles, all right? Honest hustles. So, I mean, if you looked online, you had students from elementary, middle, or high school trying to sell something, not only just to earn income for themselves, but a lot of them realistically were trying to earn extra income for their family. So when I saw that, I said, man, but who's kind of channeling all those ideas and all that effort, or who's assisting them? And typically, I didn't see a lot of that. So we poured a lot of money into forming, I would say investment. We had folks to invest into helping us form what we call a National Youth Chamber of Commerce as a vehicle where students can come get assistance at no charge. And not only assistance, but seed funding to help them fund their venture. So if you had a lemonade stand, or you were trying to do a lemonade stand in your neighborhood, but you needed the money to buy cups to sell more lemonade, you could apply for a little small mini grant from us, and we would give you a mini grant to help you fund that event that you're trying to do. And what we utilize is what is called alternative forms of currency for repayment. So for $200, you may have to do 20 hours of community service as repayment. So almost like a relationship you would have with a bank. When you go apply for a loan as a small business, you have to pay it back with some interest. Same with the Chamber of Commerce for students. So whatever they were doing, whatever they venture they may have going on, we would help. Now we still do fund those ventures. So either monetarily or support-wise with other professionals to help them in terms of, they may need a logo, they may need some marketing, they may need the full development of a small business plan, they may need t-shirts. So that's the risk we've taken, during this time to invest what we have in students to help them start on this entrepreneurship journey. Because realistically, you don't have to wait until you're an adult. So we want to invest and sow seeds now, so their Wall Street may look different from the Wall Street on Glencairn that I saw growing up, but it's investing, so that's our risk right now that we're taking. We're investing in young folks who want to start businesses. So whether you're selling candy at school, I'll be honest, like that. We funded a venture, a student probably shouldn't be selling candy and chips at school, but that's what he's doing, but we funded it. We gave him some money to buy supplies, and he's a real salesman. So those other skill sets that we see in somebody, we just want to help them further their goals and objectives of what they're trying to do.
Kevin, you said something about candy sales, because that was another one of my businesses in high school. And I remember when I received my first banking account, Mark Cooks created a Wells Fargo inside of Townview Magnet Center, and I was in 9th grade. That was my first account where I would withdraw money out, go to Sam's, buy honey buns, wholesale, sell it for resale. But all that being said, it's really important to take risks. And so a lot of people in our society, and particularly for Black people, when you think about risky actions or doing things that is non-compliant or explored, the stakes are too high for failure. And so it really hurts us as not only entrepreneurs, but just creatives, because honestly, our culture is, in my opinion, and of course I'm partial, one of the most creative people on earth. But we've had a history in America in this ecosystem that dampens that. And so the consequence of that is us not thinking critically or entertaining creating a risk or opportunities to fix a risk without taking action. So I think we need to encourage people to think about risk, figuring out how to create a solution before acting. And whenever we can create that system and process, that can help you in your entrepreneurial journey as well. Because I had to unlearn a lot of corporate behavior or risky behavior, or lack of risky behavior, to be a functioning entrepreneur.
Can I just add that for me, if it doesn't make dollars and it doesn't make sense, so I will take all the risk in the world with the Black-owned business. But if that money isn't, like, I'm not gonna lose money or put something in there that doesn't make sense. So I will always say,
I want to promote this again, not only because this was at her gas station, but it was at a convenient location. It's on I-20 off of Cooper, next to one of my favorite restaurants, on my route from Fort Worth, in which I had a client. So it's natural for me to fill up at a 7-Eleven, might as well buy some wine and continue the economic ecosystem. Exactly. And that's how you can support Black businesses without feeling like it's laborious or you have an obligation to. Well, if you are a connoisseur of wines, if you drive a car that requires gasoline, and you need a 7-Eleven, that those are intersectionalities that can not only help you individually, but can build your community as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. My next question is, what are some common mistakes you see entrepreneurs make when starting a new business venture, and what should be done to avoid them?
I can go for this.
Yeah.
I think once upon a time I used to do business consulting for people who want to start a business. And the first thing I would tell them is you need to get a good lawyer and you need to get a good accountant. And you need to have that in the early parts of your business. You don't need to go into business and later on get a lawyer or accountant when the money's messed up or when you're in legal issues. You need those from the beginning because, as you heard today on this panel, people will sue you for anything and they don't have to have a reason. They can make it up. And you have to know your contracts, because if you sign a bad contract, that could be it. And you have to know your financials. I remember years ago when Oprah said she signs her checks, I sign my checks. Nobody else can sign my checks. And that's very important because then you know what you're paying and where your money's going out when you do that. So I think those are the two big things you should get. And you need an attorney, an accountant that's in your field or industry. Right. So just because your uncle's an attorney, but he does, ambulance chasing, he shouldn't be your lawyer for your business. So you want somebody who knows your industry.
And I'm going to say, be smart, be smart about it. That's going to be my number one advice that I tell people who are starting off in entrepreneurship, be smart. If I understand that you want to get out of corporate America and you want to become an entrepreneur, but if you need something to fund that entrepreneurship, then I suggest you stay in corporate America until you figure that out. And a lot of people are like, let me focus full time on this. And they end up struggling. And I know for myself, I did stop corporate America first, but because I had to, because of the way the franchising worked. But there was a period in time when I was like, I don't know how people do this with no money before I started, before I opened up my business, you know what I mean? And then especially a lot of people don't make money in their first month or two, and a lot of people don't make money in their first year. So if you feel like entrepreneurship is for you, don't get ahead of yourself.
Agreed. One of the things that I'll say personally that I experienced was hubris. It's because you need enough confidence to take the risk. But unfortunately, with confidence, if it's unbalanced, it goes into ego territory and you inflate what your actual value to society is. And when that happens, that can cause for a bumpy ride. And so having a consistent check of self-awareness, of confidence, and creating a plan, like Katrina said earlier, all of this is guided on having a solid plan and a solid foundation to where you can always go back to. You have a solid team that can keep you in line, having a great business attorney, having a great CPA. I say the ABCs. You have to have a great accountant, a great banker, or money or funder, and then you have a great counsel, the ABCs of starting a great business. And so trusting that type of system will keep your ego in check, because you need to have it, but it needs to be funneled and directed. And that's something I didn't do early, and I suffered that consequence. I was having so much energy in so many directions. You're not building anything. And in business, you have to devote so much energy. I would say all of your energy, and you have to make sure the people in your life can understand that you're putting all of your energy in the business to make it successful.
So sometimes that means having 2 full-time jobs then. That's just, and then if that means you have to work 8 hours at corporate, then come home and work another 8 hours and figure out your plan. But don't come to anybody with a half plan.
Be a great student, because if you're a great undergraduate student, if you're a great graduate student, someone will want you to teach or instruct. That's a great side hustle if you're an entrepreneur. But that shows that you have academic excellence and that you have a discipline.
Thank you. My next question is, so what are the top 3 skills that you all think that entrepreneurs need to have to be successful? And let's start off with Mr. Mundy. I see the pen in his hand.
I want to add to the last question. I think one of the things, one common mistake is not asking questions or asking enough questions. Sometimes what I see and what I hear is people will pass a small business owner by and not ask them questions because they're waiting for Mark Zuckerberg to answer their email with the question. So look at who you have in front of you or who's charted a path before you and ask them questions. Ask them all the questions you can, because it's more personal at that standpoint and it's more intimate. So not asking enough questions is something that I see. And just because you ask a question doesn't make you a failure. It's just saying, hey, I want an opportunity to get the right answer to correct some of the mistakes I've made. So that's one key thing. And your next question was, what are 3 things? I think that's what you asked. I think you have to have courage. You have to have grit, and you have to have the ability and understanding to take risk. And know that everything that you may have laid out may not work the exact way you've laid it out, but be flexible to be able to come back and be resilient enough to make changes to get back on your journey.
That's good.
Thank you. What do you think, Mr. Houston? Top 3 skills.
Okay. Kevin had 3 amazing ones. Let me try to add on to that. I think that you have to be a great communicator. I think you have to be able to have the skill set of being able to communicate your vision or your dream to people so that they can help you. Once you're able to articulate the direction or inspire people, you have to be able to create a strategy. You have to create a solid plan and include the people who have caught on, who have sold on to this belief, put them somewhere so that everyone can benefit from that. And then thirdly, you have to have a clear purpose or a true end game. If you are creating a venture or a vision to make money, to have a business venture, create systems to go for that goal. Don't want to make money and then say, oh, but I want to be a nonprofit at the same time. You should not do that at the same time. Do one plan, execute that, and then once that's successful, you can use those resources to create your nonprofit. But you have to create a solid end game. And you have to clearly articulate that to the people that you've recruited and that's on board with you. And it has to be consistent with your vision, which was the very first thing that you should have as a top skill.
Thank you. And you, Miss Katarina Keys?
I think one, you have to be a team builder, because you can't have a business and be by yourself. You're going to need employees or vendors or somebody. So you have to know how to build a good team and have a good working team that wants to work hard for you and for the whole company. I think second, you have to know how to sell. I tell everybody, if you're a corporate or you're, a plumber and you're like, I can do this. I can have my own plumbing company. Once you open a company, you're not going to be cleaning toilets anymore. You're going to be selling the business. So you have to know how to sell. And even if you don't like it, you have to learn how to sell, because that's the only way your business is going to stay in business, is by making money and selling your products or services. And then last, I think just you have to really understand those financials, because if you don't, you can't grow your business. And knowing your financials will grow your business so well, but you have to understand that you don't have to be an accounting major, but you just need to have the basic financial knowledge of what is P&L, what is profit, what are my expenses, and you have to look at that every day and know where you are to be able to make sure you're meeting your goals.
Thank you. And you, Miss Allison Ray, what do you think? Top 3 skills.
Okay, I first want to add that, Miss Katrina, I do clean toilets. So just for the record, I cleaned one the other day, but I try not to. I'm going to say that my 3, which I'm going to kind of add a 4th one in there, are more personal from within. And I want to say the first one is that you have to have tough skin. You really, really do. And I'm going to say that the Lord is still working on me because you're no longer representing, like when I stepped out of corporate America, I had to realize that like my attitude was no longer representing somebody else. My attitude is now representing me. And so working in a gas station, that really, you have to learn to people call you all types of names. They throw money at you. They, you know what I mean? Like they do all types. So you have to learn to have tougher skin, which is a quality that I am continuing to work on. But you also have to know yourself, and know what you're capable of doing, and what you're capable of kind of just being able to stand, right? If business is not your thing, then you have to know that about yourself. Like I know a lot of operators sometimes fail because they believe that their business practices are the business practices that are right. But for me and myself, I'll tell you in a heartbeat, okay, that's something I don't really know about, but I need to research it. And so you have to know yourself and know where your strengths and weaknesses are. The third one would be networking. I think somebody said you have to, there's no way that you can be an entrepreneur and not network. There's absolutely no way. And if anybody knows how I originally got my first one, I would not have been able to get my first store if I would not have networked with so many people. And just, being a Delta and going to Hampton and HBCU connection and, just church and just everything, all of that ties in together. in order to just be able to make it work, especially when you're trying to sell something like yourself, like when you're trying to sell yourself, it's very important that you network. But I do want to add one more in there. The one thing that I tell everybody is to be you. Be 100% unapologetically, positively you. We are living in a world right now in 2021 where the internet rules all and social media is king. And you're not just selling yourself to the next person, you're selling yourself to millions of people around the world. There's not a product out there that hasn't been invented. I'm going to be honest, like there's not. Like you maybe we can a time machine or something, but there's not a skill out there that you're selling yourself. You're selling yourself as to why you should be this person to help this person out. And so people know me. People know I'm not going to dress up. If it involves dressing up, I'm not coming. People know if if music comes on, I'm going to dance. But I sell myself as a African American female boss on the corner of Matlock and 20 who will dance, have an attitude, be happy, all in one day. And so I just tell everybody to just be you.
I love that so much. I follow you on Instagram and I be seeing you under the shade.
You have to be you. You have to be you. And somebody said that one day, like, why do you make comments like that? Because I'm gonna be me. Like I'm not gonna become this entrepreneur to be somebody else or be this cookie cutter version of what somebody wants me to be. Like, no, I'm gonna still crack jokes. I'm still gonna be the same person I want to be. But that's just kind of like who I am. So I just tell people just to be you, But yes, I do that.
So that leads me to my next question. So what are some steps that one should take to become an entrepreneur once they know that they have the skills down pat? Let's start off with Mr. Houston.
Okay. Well, I normally say, one, you dream big. You have to make sure you have this amazing vision, and you have to be in love with it. Because, as Alice said, being an entrepreneur is hard regardless. Even if you're in love with it, there are going to be some long days. There are going to be more long days than not. And so knowing something that you are going into and loving it is key. The second thing, you have to work hard. You have to have a clear plan. You have to have everything that Katarina says specifically. You have to know your numbers, because in business, in a capitalistic society, is you are creating a product in hopes that you can create a profit, not guarantee that you make a profit as soon as you create it. No one is obligated to buy this from you. And so you are already in a risky proposition. And so you have to make sure you have the best plan possible so that you can take advantage and win in that economically to feed your family. And then the third thing is you have to give back. You have to invest in people whom you care about, so that they can share your business philosophy. They can share your emotional passion for it so that you all can build systems. Single entrepreneurs cannot create things by themselves. Everyone aren't chief. There may not be chiefs, but there has to be systems that have to be manned or managed or consumed by people to be successful. And you have to understand everyone has to play their part. And your part, once you receive money or resources, is to give back to someone else.
Thank you. And you, Mr. Mindy?
Much like Mr. Houston, I would say surround yourself with good people or great people, and find out where they sit, what seat they sit in on your bus that you're driving.
Yes, sir.
Also, know your financials, your P&Ls. That's very important. Don't totally depend on your accountant to do your work, but know the work that they're doing for you. And understand there's going to be some friends that you may lose on this journey, but it's your journey that you have to continue to walk down that path, because this is a goal that you set for yourself. So,
I have a personal question now. So how do you go about building a team and just sharing with people that you have this idea? like, how are you able to be comfortable in knowing that, you know, they're going to keep that with them and maybe help you, you know, build and produce it or whatever. So I hope that makes sense. How do you go about building a team and ensuring that those people around you are good and that they're going to respect you and your idea that you have?
I think that's actually a really good question, and I think that a lot of the people that I have on my team are from credible sources, and so that's why I always tell you that's why I always said in the very beginning, like, you need to make sure that whenever you're starting off, that you're representing yourself well, because you have no idea what rooms your name is in. And so whenever I was looking for a lawyer or an attorney or something, like, I think I put it out on Instagram and people started giving me, you know, credible sources. And so I think that's kind of where it goes from there. A lot of it, especially in the Black community, is word of mouth. But also, if you have an idea, I don't know. That's not a good question for me. I think I'm more of a build a team person around you than a telling somebody your goals.
Yeah, well, and that's a beautiful thing that you say, because everyone have different philosophies and there's no one right way. And so for me, my philosophy was built on my experiences, and it stemmed from being at the right place at the right time, getting good luck. And that's not luck as in I just happened to be there. It was an intersection of my preparation and an opportunity. And so my first big quote unquote break happened because I committed and fulfilled things in college that that wasn't going to pay me money. I didn't even know people were observing me. But I did something what people asked me to do. And so that my father said, do what you say and say what you do. If you do that, you can build a business. And that one interaction built a relationship to where I was invited to be an investor in like a self-serve yogurt company when it was just taking off in 2010. And so I was able to be co-owner of 7 yogurt restaurants just because someone knew that I would do something. And that's really important to Allison's point in terms of just being great. So.
Yeah, and I do want to say that whenever you are deciding like who to tell about your idea, and this is one thing for me, because not everybody's going to support your plan, and not everybody has great intentions. So I will say that whenever you decide, because like whenever I decide that I want to do something, I say, okay, what is my role going to be? So that way I know what to have around me. Because like Miss Katrina said, like she knew she needed a lawyer and she knew she needed an accountant, but like, what does your business need? Or like, what does your thought process need? And that's kind of what I did whenever I stepped into 7-Eleven. I was like, okay, at the end of the day, I know I want to do paperwork. And I have a master's in accounting, but I knew at the end of the day, I didn't want to do my taxes at all. So you need to figure out what your role is in it and what you envision yourself doing. So that way you can then envision like what needs to be around you.
Thank you for that. So I see the time is getting close to the end. So I want to ask our last question. And that is, what, or in your own words, what does it mean to be your ancestors' wildest dream? Because this year, that is our theme. I am my ancestors' wildest dream. So can y'all tell me, everybody, doesn't matter who goes first, but tell me, what does it mean to be your ancestors' wildest dream?
I actually got teary-eyed on this question the other day. Because I literally thought, just thought back to people like Ruby Bridges, or, just people, just game changers, and people who just were so brave in how we've made it to where we are today. And I don't know if anybody has seen the movie. I think it's called One Night in Miami, or One Night in, that movie literally changed my life. For it to be, but it just literally, it's the things in which our ancestors dreamed and our ancestors started, and to now see us just completely come to another platform, to whereas we are in all different platforms. And so I just want to tell people that, like, if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, that's fine. What we're doing is we need to be in everywhere. We need entrepreneurs, we need doctors, we need lawyers, we need politicians, we need vice presidents of the United States. We need to be in every platform, and everybody plays a role in their specific part. But I think that was our ancestors' wildest dreams. was that we can be anywhere and sit at any table and do anything we wanted to, from entrepreneur all the way up to vice president of the United States or president of the United States of America.
Thank you for that.
I think for me, my aunt, she had a janitorial business, and it was in Ohio. She did all the downtown, what I call skyscrapers. In the summer, she would have me work for her, and I would throw out trash, and I would look at people's desks and see their pictures and be like, ooh, I want to have a desk one day. And so she died when I was in my 20s, so she never got to see what I'm doing, but I think she would be so proud that I'm a business owner. And I think being a business owner, you bring security to your family, you bring wealth to your family and your community. And, when I grew up, my parents were working class folks, but now my son, he's going to have money to do that. We're going to be able to pay. He don't need a scholarship for college. We can pay for that. If he don't want to go to college, he can start a business. We're going to have already funds for him to do that. So we're setting up now, our son, our nieces and nephews, they're going to have something that we never had, that my ancestors never had. They're going to have wealth to be able to do things and to help others. And I think that's something that's, that's generational, and that we haven't been able to do that as Black people for, until now, or this is our generation. We just weren't set up to do that.
I'll go next. One year we had a guest speaker at one of our galas. His name was, you may know him, Arthur Art George, who was one of the highest ranking African-American employees, VPs at Texas Instruments. And he brought a message, and the title of his message was, "We've come this far, but now it's time to bring somebody along the way." And I think for me, that is my ancestors' wildest dream, that it's not just about where I've come, but have I gone back to bring somebody along the way. So when you think about Harriet Tubman, she never forgot. She went back and got more. She brought them forward to freedom. So I think for me personally, got to continue to fight like Nat and have that tenacity and resiliency, and like Malcolm X, by any means necessary, in any possible way, no matter how, no matter what, that I want to see not only myself but others become successful. So for me, those are the words of my ancestors, that you've come this far, but now it's time to bring somebody along the way.
Yeah, agreed. I don't have much to add because everything was so eloquently said. I remember I just think about my father, whom I lost in 2007, and when I was 23, and it was literally the year after I graduated college, and I decided to go all in on entrepreneurship, and we were ready to start this mentoring relationship, and that didn't happen. And so when I think about the things that he told me before he left this place, I could just think that he's smiling because he sees me trying. And that's the thing. It's those big principles that our ancestors taught us emotionally. It's love, it's family, it's building, it's being better than they were because of your opportunities. And so I think of my grandparents who on both sides were entrepreneurs. One was a farmer, the other one owned the grocery store, the pool hall, and things in the segregated small town in Texas. Those are very important for me to continue that legacy. And so I live to ensure that they stay smiling every day. If they can smile and guide me on this path to build our people, that's all that I can do on this earth.
Wow, those were amazing answers. Thank y'all so much. That was our last question, so let's give another virtual round of applause to our wonderful panelists.
Ellen, I would like to just share one thing with all the students out there. I think we all talked about this, and we're talking about our ancestors. And I think what they would want to see from all of us is us supporting our community. And I think we all talked about buying Black. I don't know the exact numbers. Matt may know them better, but in a Black community, $1 jumps out our community immediately. In the white community, it stays and turns 6 or 7 times.
Hey.
And we have to be purposeful and buy and spend Black. And that is not hard to do. You just got to do a little research. We have, social media, we can get out there, but I try to spend all my dollars Black. Like I said, my accountant's Black, my attorney's Black. We have an outside IT company we use, they're Black. On the personal side, my doctor's Black, my dentist is Black, my child goes to a private Black school. I think we got to spend our dollars Black. And just because, people say, well, I live in Plano or North Dallas, you have to find
everywhere.
You have to research and get out there and spend and be purposeful, because if not, you're helping the other community, you're not helping us, and you're not helping yourself. So I just want to charge everybody to spend and buy Black.
Amen.
And start at 7-Eleven at lock-in 20.
Okay. So let's move on to Q&A. Let's see if we have some questions from the audience. If we do, I'm going to read them out and you all answer them. So let's see. Okay. If you have any questions, put them in the chat box. I don't see any. Let's see. That's the grandfather clock. Y'all hear that? Okay, so here's a question. What other types of businesses or industries would you pursue if you had the option?
I'm trying to get rich off of stocks so I can sit down somewhere because I'm already tired. But if I could do something, I'm going to be honest with you right now. I'm a very right here person. Not, financially, of course, I want to, I'm thinking ahead all the time, but I'm a very right here person. And I like to call myself an opportunist. And Mr. Houston, it seems like from listening to you, you're kind of the same thing. You see something, you go for it. If there's an opportunity out there, you're going to take it. And so I think in corporate America, I wasn't really fulfilled, and I really didn't have like a purpose. Like I felt like I didn't have a purpose or a talent. And it wasn't until I started taking ownership of this 7-Eleven that I truly realized that my talent is people and my talent is business. So right now I can't think of anything else because I have fallen in love with this. But of course, I think that if I could own something outside of franchising one day, then I possibly would.
What about you, Ms. Katarina Keys? What
I
other
think, as what Allison said, she wants to invest in stock. You need to think about how you can make money while you're sleeping. And stock market is one way, but there's other things. If whatever your business is, if you can have something that you can sell that while you're asleep, people can buy it online or they can subscribe to it and pay you something every month, that's what you want to do, because we all work so hard. So if you can work easier, that's what you want to do in making money. I know we and my husband, we've done a lot of real estate and other things to try, like I said, make money where we don't have to work as hard and the money's working for us. We're not working for the money.
Thank you. What about you, Mr. Houston?
This is a great question. I'm trying to think of a specific industry because I am an opportunist in terms of I always try to identify and project the next trends and try to jump ahead of that, and then just have enough smart people around me to create that infrastructure and that truly enjoys that product to fully deal that. So I would say the music industry, because that's just my love. I know that it's changing. And I'm saying with all these reels, how all of these apps can have certain certifications to play certain music. And so there's some money somewhere. And that's aligning with what? True love, which is music and money and business and actually helping the artists. So I try to create opportunities there. I would love to explore that.
Thank you. And you, Mr. Mundy?
For me, it would definitely be construction. Because
that's where the money is.
I grew up in it, so I feel like I know that side of the business very well. So I've watched not only my dad but my dad's brothers. So it's embedded. So who knows what's next, and I feel like I could also do that and help community out at the same time by introducing young men and women into the trade as well. So I see a life balance in that. I can see a life balance in that for me.
And once you get that entrepreneurship spirit in you, really the sky is the limit. So I full-heartedly believe that construction would work for you. I full-heartedly believe that music would work for you, because like once you get that entrepreneur spirit, like there's nothing that can make you fail, or there's nothing where you can't like pick yourself back up. My second profession is professional speaking or motivational speaking, and I literally spoke that into existence. And one day I was talking to a group of second graders, and I literally killed it. I killed it. It was amazing. They loved me. I was great. And that evening, I went home and made business cards that said motivational speaker. And 2 months later, I was getting paid money, good money, to be a motivational speaker. So I didn't, you know what I mean? Like I literally spoke it into existence. I put it on a card and I said, this is what I'm going to do. And I started doing it. So I full-heartedly believe that once you get that entrepreneur spirit, you can literally do whatever you want to do.
I do want to make a warning. Entrepreneurs think differently, because I understood everything that Allison was saying, but I also understand that we're in a minority in our society in terms of thought process. And so it's exciting just to feed off of energy of other entrepreneurs helps you propel and find a new venture as well.
And I agree with Allison. You can do it. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you can do it. I don't care how smart you are or what you look like or where you've been. That's what you want to do. You can do it, and know that there may be failure, but keep trying. There's entrepreneurs that failed many times, but now have successful businesses. So if you really want to do it, just know that you can and believe in yourself.
Thank you. Mr. Bruce said, love it. We all have to start somewhere. I'm going to try that. Second graders is where it's at.
Yeah, they loved me. It was great.
Killed it.
I did.
Right.
Well, there aren't any more questions, so I just want to thank you all for being here. I truly enjoyed your conversation. Oh my goodness, I was nervous the whole time, but y'all made it so easy. Thank you. I loved it how y'all were just kept coming with the answers. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Is there any way that we can provide our email addresses or our social media to people so that way they can reach out to us in the future? I'm saying, like, is there any way that can be done?
Yeah. I wonder if we can put it in the comments. Let's see. Mr. Bruce said we can. So maybe once we get off the air, we can like share.
Okay.
Mr. Bruce said I can place them in the private chat. So anyone wanting their personal information, please stay tuned. Just stay on the lookout for it. And then we can transfer them to the comments. So yeah, stay tuned for that, guys. So we're going to end it there. So before we end, we encourage everyone to take our survey and tell us what you thought about tonight's panel. We also want to take this time and remind you that we have 3 more of our Black History Month programs. Next week is our Royal Pursuit, Pursuing Black Excellence event on Wednesday, February 17th at 7 p.m. Here's our flyer for it. This will be on Microsoft Teams. And the next day, Thursday, February 18th, we're going to have our Trap Yoga event. And that's going to be at 6 p.m. in collaboration with the Wellness Center. And here's our flyer. Okay, and so we will end Black History Month with our traditional big dinner event on February 25th at 7 p.m. So please mark your calendars for that. And that's it. Thank you all for joining us this evening, and we hope you had a great night. Until next time, happy Black History Month.
Y'all have a good one. See you later, fam.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank y'all. Thank you, everybody.
Good to see y'all.
Thank you, MC.
Ellen, you did a great job.